This morning on Houston Newsmakers, Mayor Annise Parker. Her last election was 2 years ago as she headed into her final term as Houston's mayor. What's in store now that she's leaving office in a few weeks? What are her biggest successes and what are the biggest accomplishments left unfinished? We'll talk about all of that and find out if this is the end of the political line or is there life after being the mayor of the best city in the United States on this special edition of Houston Newsmakers.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Good morning and welcome to Houston Newsmakers with Mayor Annise Parker. This is the final time we'll be doing this program with you as mayor. How's that feel?
Well, it's not just ending 6 years as mayor. I'm ending 18 years of full-time government service. So it's a big chunk of my life.
Yes. Are you ready to step aside?
No.
No?
I think they're going to be fingernail marks on the door as they pull me out of the office. No, I have a lot of things. I'm going to be working up to the last day. You can't ever get everything done you want to do. And I think that being a big city mayor is the best political job in America. Well,
you endorsed State Representative Sylvester Turner for mayor, who won a close race against Bill King this past weekend. Why did you endorse him, and what kind of a mayor do you think he'll be?
I know both Representative Turner, now Mayor-elect Turner, and Bill King. I've known both of them for a very long time. They're both competent, capable guys. Either one of them could do the job. But in my view, Mayor-elect Turner would do the better job of continuing to work on the things that I'm passionate about. He's committed to keeping the Rebuild Houston program going, which in the long term, not the short term, but the long term, is critically important to funding infrastructure. He understands that pensions are a significant problem, but he also understands that we have to do pension reform in Austin and in conjunction with our employee groups. I don't think he's going to have any better luck working with the pension boards than I did, but with the employee groups and with his former colleagues in Austin, and those are all important things.
I kind of chuckled. I saw a quote attributed to you last week where you said, I'm a good manager, but I'm not a good legislator, and I don't always play well with others. And you think that Sylvester can. Did you say that?
I did say that. And it's not that I don't, I mean, I have a better working relationship with Harris County, with the judge, with the commissioners than we've had in years and years. So, you know, we're doing the Joint Processing Center. One of the first things I did when I came in was we got the county involved and we built BBVA Stadium. So we are doing things with the county that we've never done before. But in terms of, I don't have, I'm a very high active, high achiever, and I don't have much tolerance for slackers, and I can't hide it. And I've not really ever served in a legislative body. Houston City Council is a board of directors. It's not a legislative body. And because the pension has to be solved in Austin, with the contacts that Sylvester has, I think he's going to have at least an opportunity to make a difference.
A little bit better schmooze factor, perhaps.
I have no schmooze. Yeah.
What do you think will be the biggest challenges for him? There were a couple of programs we talked about on the pension issues, for example, facing the city. Something you said you really wanted to take on. A lot of people didn't want to talk about it, and it was a challenge getting people to the table to get that conversation going.
You know, if you're in a crowd of 100 people, 3 of them will be interested in the pension. The 3 that are very interested in the pension. But if you solve the pension funding problem, the city of Houston has the money to do what it needs to do. You're not, you know, we're not rolling in the dough, but all of the major things that the city needs to do come into alignment. But you have to deal with the pension first. And you know, I know the rhetoric of a campaign. There were a lot of this. Well, no one. I actually think Bill King on election night. We're finally talking about pensions because I ran. No, Bill White reformed the municipal pension on the civilian pension side when he was mayor. I made progress. I worked with police and with the municipal pension, but it's permissive reform. If you can't force any change and you can't really do what we need to do except in Austin. So the dialogue's been out there, but the levers aren't in our hands. And
that clearly has been one of the frustrations with you trying to get that
yeah,
done.
if there's anything, you look, there are a lot of things I would have done differently at various stages in my time as mayor, but the only thing that I tried to accomplish and failed to accomplish at all is pension reform. A for effort, probably a D for results. I'm going to be able to give the next mayor a whole stack of, these are the lawsuits we filed, this is the legislation we shopped in Austin, so he won't have to reinvent the wheel.
Any regrets at all about the way you handled the equal rights ordinance? Would you change anything in the way that you champion that?
There are always things that I wish I might have said differently or done differently, but I don't think there's anything that we could have done to change the outcome. Once the lie about it being about men and women's bathrooms got out there and they just rode that and rode that and rode that, we couldn't undo it. I was not involved in the day-to-day campaign itself.
And you made a point to stay out of that.
Because I'm still running the city. I have things to do. I'll be running the city until January 1st. But the campaign focused on, we have no local ordinance, and it's about the 15 protected categories. And so they had great commercials about a veteran who had been discriminated against, and African-American men who denied access to the hot clubs on Washington Avenue and in Midtown. Things that are happening today in Houston, and the other side just kept talking about bathrooms. And in hindsight, might as well go right to the bathroom. We just thought, people wouldn't be that stupid. And I think we should have just gone right to fire with fire and not tried to talk about the broader issue. Although the irony, last night someone texted me and said, I'm disabled and I was denied access to a club in Midtown. Mayor, what should I do? And I'm like, well, you can file a federal lawsuit.
Federal lawsuit. Well, that's been one story. You had to go, the courts made that, ended that on the ballot, and it lost.
I will point out that we won in front of a jury, we won in front of a judge. The not putting that petition before the voters, the Supreme Court didn't hear it on the merits. They just said, we think it needs to be on the ballot. So I am vindicated but frustrated.
Well, frustrated. Are you frustrated at all about what's going on with the Rebuild Houston part as well? Because that's also something that's been in the courts, and now it looks like.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I think Mayor-elect Turner I'm glad he's going to be in there, because he will defend the program. It's the right thing to do, and we're going to continue forward. The drainage fee itself and the amount that people pay was enacted in a standalone ordinance by City Council. And at worst, the new mayor comes in and reaffirms that ordinance, and I don't think he's actually going to have to do that. What we've lost, if the charter election is invalidated, is the prohibition against debt financing. And Mr. King was actually campaigning on that with the assumption that he'd be able to come in and immediately start borrowing money in order to do street repairs. We did the analysis. We gave it to council and we showed it to both of them. In the short term, borrowing money allows you to do more, but it's just like, you know, you take out a mortgage to buy a house. You can buy a whole lot more house by borrowing money than if you pay cash, but you eventually have to pay that borrowed money back. I
would guess you have a little bit of frustration about stepping away, with Moody's having downgraded the city in some respect, although it doesn't create an immediate problem, but it just is a... It's
the negative outlook. I mean, we have not had our debt downgraded, right, but there's a negative outlook, and that's largely the, you know, it's the combination of the oil prices, because the city's very sensitive to that, and the pension issue. Well, the pension issue has been mentioned in our credit rating reports, you know, every year for the last decade. It's a problem everywhere in the United States.
Right.
But again, the legislature needs to fix it, or the legislature needs to say, mayor, council, pensions, you work it out.
Well, there are a lot of things you haven't had to depend upon the legislature for, and so that means there's some good things that have been happening here in the city of Houston. We're going to talk about those things when we come back, because the list is long. The list is longer than we have time, but we're going to start the process anyway with Mayor Parker when we get back, and those programs, initiatives we'll get to. And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers, where Mayor Annise Parker is my special guest this week as she counts down the days left in her term as Houston Mayor. She says she doesn't want to go, but she's got to go. Your term is up. 2 years times 3, 6. The next mayor's got 4 years. Are you kind of just wishing that you would have?
I'm jealous. As a gift to the new mayor. I mean, I brought it before council, and we put it out there, and the voters accepted it. All of our peer cities except San Antonio. Texas cities have 2-year terms. Mm-hmm. The big cities across America have 4-year terms, and it better aligns with the work that you're doing, and you're not campaigning constantly. So it's a good thing.
One of the good things that seems to have happened under your management, the transportation issues here. I mean, there's both airports, a lot of good things going on.
Airports are booming, and new. I think in my time, I think we've brought in 10 new direct international flights with foreign flag carriers, the new international terminal at Hobby, the new parking garage at Hobby. I have $1 billion worth of contracts sitting in front of council right now. We're trying to maneuver it out the door for a new international terminal at Intercontinental. Mm-hmm. Big stuff going on. But that's airports. But we also have, of course, the metro, 3 new light rail lines, the reimagined bus system. I'm very excited what's happening in both areas.
In Metro Rail, that's been part of a long-term plan, but there were still some bumps along the way to make sure that you could get that in play.
We were in hot water with the feds. They were holding on to our money. I brought in a whole new Metro board. They brought in a new leadership team. I want to give a shout out to George Grinius, who did an amazing job righting the ship. And the proof is out there. We are in good standing with all of our federal partners, with HUD, with the transportation, and the money's beginning to flow.
And you know that Gilbert Garcia over at the metro area, if he could just come out of his shell a little bit, get a little bit more energy, perhaps.
Gilbert is probably one of the best. I mean, he's not a hire; he is a volunteer. But Gilbert was one of probably my best appointments in terms of a board or commission. Phenomenal job turning around.
And the bus system, I mean, it hasn't happened. Under your watch, something in the bus system happened that hasn't been happening even since the turn of the century almost. I mean, it's been amazing.
What is the largest, apparently, rerouting of buses that's happened ever in the country. And we've gone from the hub and spoke, everything comes into downtown system, to a grid system. It's a challenge for a lot of people because almost every rider had their route changed somewhat. No one likes change, but it's a much more efficient system, and most riders will have will be able to get to where they're going much easier.
Let's talk about law enforcement. One of the things is that the crime lab had some real issues. That's been transformed in a big way, but you also have some interest in a new public safety facility.
The crime lab was a problem for a long time. It was we had a backlog, a huge backlog of untested sexual assault kits, which I brought current. But we lost our accreditation, and now we are a state-of-the-art crime lab with an independent managing board. I fully believe that in the near future we'll have a regional crime lab with all of the local entities coming in together, but at this point I have at least gotten our crime lab to stand on its own, and we're still subsidizing it, but we're working on a fee-for-service model for them where they'll be truly independent, not under the prosecutors, not under the police, not under politics, pure science, and that's where they are, and it's exciting. But it was all part of a strategy. You know, I came in with a playbook and a list of things I wanted to do. We needed to get out of the jail business. We needed to fix the crime lab, and our police headquarters, both the downtown facility and the old jail facility on Houston Avenue and Reasoner, it's a piece of junk, both of them. And so our officers are in substandard conditions, and we have a huge problem. By creating the new partnership with the county to create the processing center, that means I don't have to build a new jail. By having the standalone crime lab, they're looking for their own space. That's a piece I don't have to replace, and so we pared it down. So that gave us the template. What do we need to build for our police force, the police force of tomorrow? Unfortunately, with the revenue limit and the pension problem, I didn't have the money for it, and I tried and tried and tried, and then and earlier this year, we've spent several $1,000,000 doing our due diligence and creating the plan, but I finally had to pull the plug. The next mayor needs to pick that up.
Okay.
We can't continue to have our officers go to work in adequate facilities.
You've done quite a bit as it relates to outdoor kinds of things. I mean,
it's my favorite thing. If you ask me what I'm most proud of, parks, green space, the Bio Greenway, and all these huge new parks we're doing, our initiatives on homelessness, and then my initiatives on infrastructure and rebuild. So yes, parks and green space. I'm not going to see most of it. We're really only about 2 years in the Bio Greenway hike and bike trails, but I mean, look at what's happened on Buffalo Bio Park.
It's very pretty.
Spectacular. Yeah. Emancipation Park will be done in summer of 2016, so we'll have another destination park. Memorial Park with a revamped conservancy and a $100 million plan to completely redo Memorial Park with mostly private dollars, 75% private dollars, all great things.
And that had to be a key component of all that, because a lot of voters would say, yeah, we're not going to spend money on that. But you got partnerships to volunteer. Absolutely. And all that.
The Bio Greenway, it's 50-50. It's $100 million of bond money that the voters approved, and $100 million, more than $100 million of private dollars to build those hike and bike trails along every major bio, the little rivers in Houston. Spectacular.
I got a point while you were talking. I thought about the partnership kind of process, and I thought about Discovery Green, how that came about. That was under Bill White. But then you have the Hilton, you have the Marriott Marquis, you have the Super Bowl coming in. That's something that really showed a lot of coordination and partnership to get the next Super Bowl here as well, did it not?
It did, and one of the things I did was we did privatize the convention facilities department of the city of Houston, and merged it.
Houston First?
That's Houston First.
Right.
We merged that piece with the Convention Center Hotel, which is the Hilton Americas, and then we merged in the Convention and Visitors Bureau. There's still some separate identity there, but it's one coordinated entity, saves millions of dollars, and it allows us to go after what we would call whale hunting, things like the Super Bowl. And then, of course, we brought home the new Marriott Marquis that's going to be down there. I've had great success in creating public-private partnerships and bringing entities together. Not so much with the legislators in Austin, and not necessarily so much with council. Well, but good coordination with a lot of other groups.
I'm curious to know what's next. I'm going to ask that question now, and I know you're just dying to tell me what's next for Mayor Parker. She steps away from one of the most rewarding and challenging jobs of her life. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
I enjoy having the mayor on this program. I'm not going to really like not having you on as mayor, so you'd have to agree to come back in whatever capacity you're going to be.
Happy to.
So what is that going to be? What are you going to do next?
I know you're not going to believe me. I have no idea.
I don't believe you.
I have been in discussions with the Kennedy School at Harvard, the Institute of Politics, about a fellowship. They take 5 fellows a semester to be available to undergraduates in public policy. I think that's a great idea, and I may very well do that if I can. But that's 3 months, and then I'm back on the ground here. It's a very short-term and defined thing. It gets me out of the new mayor's hair. No one's going to be saying, "Well, she wouldn't have done that," because I'm not going to be here.
Right.
But that is a short-term gig, and I don't know. I might be in politics again in the future, but I'm not a legislator. I've been running a $5 billion corporation for 6 years. So a nonprofit, education, county judge race, statewide race, those are in 18. So I have to have something to do.
So there is a possibility you'll get back into that, and you're not ruling that out.
I'm not ruling it out, but I have no plan. And so if I leave town for a couple of months to go off to Boston and freeze in the cold up there.
And miss Houston.
And miss Houston, and then relax and come back and then hit the ground and really decide what I'm going to do next.
What do you want people to know about what it's been like for you come to work for 6 years as Houston's mayor?
It is the best job I'll ever have. It has been an absolute honor and a privilege. This is my hometown. But even if it weren't, I love this city, and I've had the opportunity on an almost daily basis to make decisions that shape the future, and there are very few places you can do that. And I've had fun doing it, too, which is priceless.
You've been challenged.
It's not an easy job, and there are some horrific days. And when someone's injured, when there's a natural disaster, big political firestorm, all of the above. But on a day-to-day basis, there's nothing like it.
Well, you are welcome to come back here anytime. Let's talk about your next move.
So I'm not quite as old as you are, but you know, I'm too young to retire.
Oh.
So I have to, find
the last show you got to stab me, okay?
Well, you told me you're about to have a birthday. So
I am, and so respect your elders.
That's
okay?
right. All right.
Mayor Parker, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I look forward to having you back in some capacity down the road.
Thank you. All right.
We're going to talk about what's coming up next week, right after this. Next week here on Houston Newsmakers, the topic is education. Some of the top advocates in our community will be here to talk about the good and the bad of education and ways we can all help to make it better. If you'd like to join our social media Newsmakers conversation, follow us on Twitter at KPRC Khambrel, hashtag HOU Newsmakers. And if there are subjects or stories you'd like for me to take on, you can email me at HoustonNewsmakers@click2Houston.com. Thank you to Mayor Parker for joining me this morning, and to all of you for tuning in. If you'd like to check out some of the previous shows or to get information on today's program, go to click2Houston.com, and under the news banner, click on Newsmakers on the left side of the page. Have a great day, everyone. Merry Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you back here again next week.